the Making Decisions assignment in Unit 5, Exercise 4, you've already discovered that the directions don't match the source code, the code that they've given you. So on the Making Decisions assignment 4, I provided my own cell phone service Java starter code, as well as, of course, the Unit 5 Exercise 4 instructions. Okay, the starter code in the exercise matches an earlier blood data sample, so it isn't going to work at all. So you're going to have to just start from scratch or use the starter code I've provided. Okay, so let's look at the instructions. Instructions tell us to write a program for Verizon phones. You need to prompt the user to give you what he wants for how many minutes he's going to use, how many text messages he plans to send, and how many gigabytes of data he plans to use. And then recommend the best plan for the customer's needs and the price for that plan. So it gives you 6 plans and 6 different variations of talk minutes, text data, and text messaging. So I've worked out some pseudocode here so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on here. The minimum talk amount would be $500. Minimum text amount would be 100 texts, and minimum data would be 2 gigabytes. So Plan A has 0 data, 0 text, and less than a minimum amount of talk. Less than 500 minutes of talk, and that's $49. So that's Plan A. Plan B is 0 data, less than minimum talk, and less than minimum text. So it's less than 500 talk and less than 500 text, and that's $55. Plan C is greater than 500 talk and still less than minimum text, and that's $61. Plan D is still no data, but that's more than 500 talk and more than 100 texts. Plan E is less than minimum data, less than 2 gigabytes of data, and then of course greater than or equal to 500 talk minutes and greater than or equal to 100 texts. And finally, Plan F is greater than 2 gigabytes, greater than 500 texts a minute talk, greater than 500 talk, and greater than 100 texts. So how do you figure that out? I played around with a flowchart, and the first thing I came up with is a kind of a 6 true or false. Okay, if this, then this, if not this, then this, if not this, then this. Now it kind of looks pretty logical, you know, A, B, C, D, E, or F. But you get into the problem with, so you have actually 3 different layers. Is it 0? Is it less than 100 texts? Or is it greater than 100 texts? Is it 0? Is it less than 2 gigabytes? Is it more than 2 gigabytes? So you got to take a different approach with this. So the approach I came up with first is to do Plan E and F first, then A and B second, deal with my zeros, and then I go to Plan C and D. If I eliminate having no data here, and if I eliminate having data and no text here, then I can deal with having some text, because what I don't want to happen is someone should be Plan A and having the computer give them Plan C, because it reconfigures when it gets to that particular place. So we're going to do a bunch of if-else stuff. We're going to do an if-else on these two. Then we're going to go do an if-else on these two. And finally, we're going to end up with an if-else on these two. And let me show you how this works. And like I said, it's really absolutely necessary so you don't end up with recommending somebody who is having no text and no data, ending up with a plan like C. Okay, so let's get to working on that. So I put into the JGrasp because we won't be working in the MindTap for this one. Like I said, you have the wrong code in there to begin with, so you might as well just go straight into JGrasp. First off, I'm going to declare some variables here. I'm going to have an integer for talk minutes, integer for text, number of texts, an integer for data, for my gigabits of data. Our minimum amount of talk that we have with our plan C is less than or equal to 500. So I'm going to put in here minimum talk 500. You could do this as a constant instead of a variable, but I'm just using a variable here because it's just easier to code. So we're going to do our minimum for text is 100. And our minimum for data is 2. So now we're going to do our prices. So our price for A is 49. Our price for plan B is 55. Our price for plan C is 61. Our price for D is 70. Our price for E is 79. And our price for F is 87. So before I ask the user for this information, is I'm going to determine which plan the user needs. So right here, I'm going to do my if statements. So the first thing I'm going to determine is the data less than 0? So I'm going to have another if statement here. There's going to be another condition. If the data is less than or equal to the data minimum. Oh, this needs to be in curly braces. if the data is greater than or equal to min data. Oh, sorry, if data is greater than 0, my bad. So I'm checking to see, is the data less than or equal to data minimum? If that's true, the plan is E. Now you notice I don't have anything declared for E for plan, so I might want to declare a string plan. And the price is equal to price E. So I don't have price declared either. So I go int price. So now I go over here and close out this if statement. And I go to an else statement. So if this is not true, then the plan is F. And the price is equal to price F. So I close out this, closing curly brace. Then I go to the else that matches this if. Now we're going to check to see the talk. Is the talk less than the talk minutes? So if that's true, if texts are equal to 0, so once again we're comparing what's on the left with what's on the right. And this other condition also has to be true. Data is equal to 0. Are both these statements true? Are the text equal to 0 and the data equals 0? Then that's plan A. So put in my opening curly brace here. Plan is equal to A. See, once you get the logic of this, it comes together pretty well. But you have to scratch it out on paper first before you begin to write it. That's how it comes together for you. So the price is price A. We close out this option. Now this else that belongs to this lower if here goes to plan B. So open up a curly brace here. So the plan is B. And the price is price B. So now I'm going to have to give my else to this if, because this is how we're going to handle the plans C and D. Okay, so here we handled the text being 0 and the data being 0 before we handle them being less than or equal to the minimum amount. Okay, so we get this out of the way. So we put in our else here. Now we got a little lower if again. If text is greater than text minimum, if that's true, my opening curly brace here, plan C, plan is equal to C. Price is equal to price C. Close my curly brace here. And the else that goes with this one, well, actually this is the last else here. Opening curly brace, plan is equal to D. Oops. And the price is equal to price D. So we can use the message plan plus $sign plus price per month and to print out the message. So now what we need to do is go back up here and ask the user for the minutes needed. So I'm going to come over here. We already have our scanner input up top. So now I'm going to ask my user for some input. I tell him enter talk minutes needed. So I'm going to have entry is equal to input, next line. Now you notice I got a problem here. I don't have input declared, I don't have entry declared, so I need to come up here and declare a couple variables for entry and message. They're both going to be strings. Even though we're asking for numbers, we're going to have to convert the numbers. And whatever the user is going to say automatically gets converted to a string. So I'm going to have to convert the string to numbers. So it's going to be a little bit different than you're used to seeing. But this is easy to do. So string, enter, and message. Since they're both strings, I could put them on the same line. Alright, so now I have entry taken care of. So now I'm going to put talk, see talk up here. Need to parse. Integer. Parse int. Entry. Okay, so whatever he enters, I'm going to make it into an integer and put it in talk, because it comes out of string. So even though it has the number 5, the number 5 is actually a string called 5. So here this makes it into an integer. It goes into entry. Okay. So I'm going to ask the user for the text minutes needed. So I'm just going to copy this. So what do I need here? Text messages needed. So this one is going to be text. We're going to be equal to entry equals next line. Okay, sorry about that. I skipped over here. Okay, so once again, integer parse integer entry. All right, next I'm going to ask the user for the number of gigabytes of data needed. Copy this again. Print it. Okay, I'm going to enter gigabytes of data needed. So entry is going to be equal input next line. And here I have data is equal to integer parse integer entry. So then we have our computation here. Once again, it looks a little bit convoluted that we do E and F before we do A, B, C, and D. But you understand we're getting the zeros out of the way. Okay? Once you handle the zeros, everything kind of falls into place. So let me compile to see if I made any mistakes. So I had to make some corrections. Okay, first off, I had to add another curly brace after my right after my plan F. I needed to have I had a curly brace up here, and I needed to have a corresponding curly brace down here. Okay, I also had talk min instead of min talk, and text min instead of min text. So I had to make those corrections as well. So make sure that for all your curly braces, you have corresponding closing curly braces, okay? It's easy to check if you indent. I hadn't indented those before, so you know this if goes with this else, and this if goes with this else, and this if goes with this else. So that just helps you keep it straight. You know, that doesn't do anything to your computing, but it just helps it make it easier for you to see. So when I ran my program, everything worked. So let me run it. I compiled it. Now it runs this number of number of minutes needed. So let me put down 40. Number of text messages needed. Let me put 7. Number of data needed, none. That gives me a plan B with $55 a month. You can run it as many times as you want, and it should come up with the right plans. Okay. So once again, you zip this and you submit it. So how do you zip it? Well, I have in here cell phone service Java. It's in my documents file. So go to my documents file. I find my cell phone service Java. I right click it. I click send to and compress zip folder. So the cell phone zip folder is the one I submit to the Dropbox.